In this video, we're going to talk about the Redeemer versus Spawn, Reborn and Wrecked. Alright then, this is a comic book review of Spawn, issue number 31, brought to you by RatedComics. Let's get to it. So we begin this issue of Spawn in darkness. He tells the story of himself who is struggling with negative thoughts and emotions. He is haunted by his past actions and fear of rejection. And I believe in a few issues back when Wanda was so scared of him in the previous few issues, that's what he's talking about. However, he also has a source of support in his symbiotic costume. Spawn is on a journey to find something or someone, and he's also on his way back to New York to take care of that business, And he's also on his way back to New York to take care of some business. So the train stops and his costume goes limp. The sea of homeless people just spews out the box of the car. So now Spawn's on his new path and he gets out and he's back in New York City, baby, and he feels so good to be home. Filled with an anxiety he doesn't expect to break into a sprint. Adrenaline pumps harder, he goes over building to building, finally engulfed in the black bosom with the beckoning shadows. He pauses. The familiar darkness blankets him with comfort. He's back home, baby. That's all he needs is allies. So when Spawn sees his people, Bobby is showing Bootsy that look at this boot, and really much what they're going through is they're grieving and missing Al Simmons, and they're like, yeah, I don't know where he's been, I don't know why he just left, but little did they know, Spawn's just in the corner just ready to come out and make a surprise. So he surprised jump scares him with the boots in his hand like that. So they're like, where have you been, man? And I was like, you think I could just abandon you guys? Not a chance. I miss you guys way too much. And they're like, man, Al, we had a memorial for you and we're just glad you're back. Though now that you're back, there's no point in leaving my boots up there now, so let's get going. Let's start talking about this. So in this panel right here, we get introduced to a new character named Raphael, who is taking over leadership to what the orbital station is doing. She criticizes the previous predecessor's actions and promises stricter leadership. Failure cannot happen on her watch. This panel also establishes the setting as the orbital station 1 and mentions the presence of 3 signals from Earth, 2 of which are weak, but 1 has to be selected to be the new Redeemer. So one of the brothers in the orbital station is saying that the analysis of the partial derivative is conclusive, but all 3 readings occurred in the same 5-block radius. Raphael on the screen asks if they mean the Bowery in New York City, and she also asked if they chosen a new vessel to be the Redeemer. Well, they have chosen a new vessel, and that this soldier will be tailored to their current data. The other elemental bro says that the test found the other attempt indicate that the elemental fire content was accurate but incompatible with the subject. They say that they have since decommissioned that first soldier, referring to Jason Wynn as the first Redeemer, and that's in Spawn issue number 16. One of the elemental dudes say that their conclusion is that their next subject must willingly embrace the vast power of the fire, have high pain tolerance, and they figure that this brother is going to be a perfect soul for them. So now we go back to Jason Wynn. He's trying to find out the secrets and how Jason Wynn is framing him from all those false murders and conspiracies. Even though Jason Wynn is starting to come up squeaky clean, Terry Fitzgerald just cannot figure out how is this guy covering all his bases, all his access. Everything that he does, everything that he tries, access denied. So the only option left with Terry Fitzgerald is to upgrade his status, which means a transfer into Wynn's department, because the way Terry looks at this, not even the president can get through to this right here. So in this panel right here, even though the guys are agreed that they all love to have Al back, but the bums tell Al, the guys have been talking, they think that you should be out of here. They want to drive you out of here. They think you're no good. They think you just sucked the life out of their territory. But Bootsy and I, we want you back here. I'll never forget what you did for my life. And Spawn's like, I didn't have a choice, man. I was dragged by a bunch of angels into heaven, then they dumped me deep into the south. Being a Spawn makes me a prime target on their agenda. It just took me a long time to get back without using the limited energy that the devil gave me, Malbosia. Because remember, if Spawn uses all of his energy, he has a second death. So Spawn asked them, whatever happened to the curse? Who let them go? Did he get tired of hanging around? Haha, funny. Yeah, I know. So they're like, we don't know, but speaking of which, what's the deal with your cape? It doesn't seem very impressive like it used to be. And Spawn's like, you got me, Bootsy. It kind of freaked me out when I was in heaven. I lost most of it while escaping. It's still acting weird now, so I'm hoping it doesn't get too bizarre. So now they go back into the backstory of Phil Timper and how he had a life-changing transformation. So before, Phil Timper was the kind of guy that was constantly in and out of juvenile detention from early on. He was convicted and incarcerated 2 years for felony grand theft. It was in prison that Phil gave himself to completely do God's calling. Now he's the model citizen, even training to be a minister at the local church. So after 11 solid years serving the Lord, he still prays every night that he will be worthy of God's kingdom when the time comes. Hey, you know what? In Romans, we have all fallen short of the glory of God, but it's by his grace that we're saved when we confess in Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior. I know, I just had to add that in there. So back in the orbital station, they're going to work on Phil Timper. The bi-level sensors indicate even greater tolerance for pain than originally projected. This soldier should be near perfect. All that is required of their new Redeemer is the final step: nuclear fire diffusion before his transformation can be complete. So at an NYPD gymnasium, Sam weighs himself and Twitch is like, yo man, you gained more weight even though you cut back to only a dozen donuts a day. Sam is like, let's just say I'm in a pretty good mood. Let's just say that right now our good friend Detective Chief Banks received a tiny little package. If you follow the previous issues of Spawn, Chief Banks had something to do with the framing of Terry Fitzgerald and Billy Kincaid. So now that Chief Banks is opening up that letter, roses are red, violets are blue. Now that Kincaid is gone, the trail leads back to you. Banks is like, heck to the no, I gotta get on the phone with Jason Wynn now. So at 4 a.m., the Bowery back streets finally dragged to a halt. Each of the alley's occupants has sought out his place of rest. So it's nighttime. The moment feels so natural that Spawn thinks to himself and he goes on a walk. So as he listens to a muffled breathing, a sudden sensation grips him. His chain pulls him towards some unknown destination. Danger. The costume is telling Spawn danger. He sprints back 3 city blocks before rounding the last corner, then stops dead in his tracks. He curses a twisted existence and curses a familiar figure before him, and it's the Redeemer, ready to send Bobby back to the orbital station. And the reason why is because Bobby radiates of necroplasm transferal from the Hellspawn, and that's the source. So now Redeemer's like, well, I gotta send you back. And like it's seen from a bad sci-fi movie, Spawn's like, I'm just gonna ask you one damn time. Back away from him, nice and slow. This is between you and me. My name is Redeemer, and he just claps him back like, get off of me, bro. My mission's with this subject, not with you, so leave. Your time will come, and that ass will be mine. Now this is interesting, says Redeemer. Spawn's like, nah, damn it, I said leave him alone. I'm coming back for some more. Don't you understand, says Redeemer? You must be even more ignorant of your Hellspawn abilities than we've determined. And Spawn has to listen to his cost because it's weak. Spawn is being tossed around like a broken rag doll with each assault, and his efforts are embarrassing. Like, so direct attack is futile. Trickery now seems to be his best option. So Spawn positions himself directly in Redeemer's line of fire, knowing the damage will be severe but less crippling than it appears. Unfortunately, that strategy has failed. He never considered that Redeemer would teleport his victim in tow. Lying in a crippled, exhausted heap, Spawn and his costume are unable to recover in time to help his friend. So now Spawn gets up with the big hole in his chest, and the guys are like, yo man, that hole. And Spawn's like, yeah, well this curse gave it back to me a while back. I didn't want to waste my power fixing it. I was hoping the Redeemer would think he done serious damage, then give me an opening to ambush him. So when they ask him does it hurt before they can complete that sentence, well, the costume acts on its own and starts attacking, and it can't recognize who's friend or foe. So Spawn tells him to run and leave him alone and get away from him. So with every possible object now shredded, the costume and the alleyways go silent, deathly silent. The first hint of life comes hours later. It begins to move, it begins to grow, it begins to breathe. The costume lives again. And after being knocked out for several hours, Spawn costume comes back to life and is spiked and ready for action. Like Marshawn Lynch, it's time for that action, boss. And that is the end of Spawn, issue number 31, Redeemer versus Spawn, Reborn and Wrecked. What you guys think of the comic book? Comment below, let me know. Also, don't forget to check out RatedComics.com for some really cool limited print Rated Comics exclusives to add to your comic book collection. Support the art, support the industry. Lastly, this video is sponsored by coffee, so if you'd like to buy your boy a cup of coffee, link in description or donate to the super thanks. But the greatest compliment you guys can do is by liking this video and subscribing to Rated Comics YouTube channel. Thank you again for watching. Until next time.